removed. I didn't get a clear answer as to why that was. I wasn't sure if it was a security issue or if the phone had broke. But either way, hopefully, the other thing that was noted is the lack of basic necessities for jail operations. And so HCCC, unfortunately, when it was built, it was missing many necessities that would make it kind of like a fully functioning jail. And so that includes, a segregation unit, a protective custody unit, a proper mental health unit, an appropriate space for those on safety or suicide watch, a proper infirmary, a perimeter fence, a proper female housing unit. Commissioner saw that the females were housed in cells that are referred to as dry cells, meaning they don't have sinks or toilets, no direct access to water. Those cells are typically used for intake for like maybe a couple hours, but in this case, they are being used as permanent housing due to the lack of space the HCCC has. Let's see. A commissioner did note that there was a pile of mattresses at the end of the hall in Punahele, and so there was concern that people are sleeping in the floor and that it's a corridor. It's kind of where you have medical, the women are housed there. It's not meant for housing, but it's kind of a makeshift. But anyway, there are a bunch of mattresses sitting there, so it's unclear what that's used for, why those were there. And then out of cell time was another big thing that the commission was hearing about. Luckily, the facility has done a really great job with getting people out of their cells for indoor recreation. And so being able to sit inside and watch TV. A lot of people had mentioned that they were getting out for 2 hours a day. But unfortunately, many individuals had mentioned that they're not getting outside so that fresh air and sunlight piece. The other thing is that the rec yards are not only very small, but they also have no type of overhead protection. And so if it's raining, oftentimes recreation will be canceled due to weather. So that was something that the commission wanted to note. The other thing that I think is important to note is the lack of visitation. So currently there's no in-person visitation whatsoever. The department did implement non-contact visit booths, and there's been a serious delay in receiving the telephones that are needed for those visit booths. And so initially, my understanding is that contact visits were not being held initially due to COVID. But since that time, with the building of the non-contact visit booths, now it can't be held because they don't have the phones. And so I, on a personal level, I have very serious concerns about that. I mean, obviously, contact visits keep people close to their friends, their family, their community. And so that's been a concern that's been kind of consistently reported out on. Mark, did you want me to transition to the recommendations, or did you want to leave opportunity for discussion?
I'd like to leave at this time, after hearing what you said, if any of the commissioners who have taken part on the tour would like to make any comments at this time.
No, keep going.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Ted.
I wasn't on the tour, but regarding the mattresses that were piled in the hallway, is that do you say that was in Punahele? And was it that hallway where medical is, medical dental intake?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would imagine. Yeah, I would imagine that would probably be a fire code violation also.
It was in front of a door. Yeah. That's another thing. It wasn't just at a wall. It was in front of a door.
Yeah. So that would be a fire code violation. I just wanted to comment on that.
Ronald, any comments from you?
No, not right now.
Okay.
Mark, I had one question of Kristen. Kristen, as I best remember, I did take some mental notes and sent you a note. The lack of recreation sometimes is because there wasn't enough staff. And the reason there wasn't enough staff was that because of staff absences. Did I hear that right, Kristen, or not?
It's a heavy mix. And so with the lack of staff, and Tom, you might want to comment on that too, but my understanding is that not only are there some vacancies at HCCC, but also there are individuals who are out on, workman's comp, who utilize sick leave, who utilize personal leave. And so unfortunately with the vacancies, it's hard for HCCC to have full coverage day to day, is my understanding of the situation. So it does make it very, very difficult for staff to navigate getting people out of cell and getting people to their, appropriate programs or different things going on like recreation.
I can add to that if you guys want.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So,
Sure.
just across the board in general, we have 1,535 ACO positions. We have about 302 vacancies, which is about just under 20% vacancy rate. Of those 1,233 that's available for duty, we have 334 or 35.2% that have approved FMLA. The vast majority of the ACOs at HCCC have approved FMLA, either federal or state, almost 100% to be exact. We have 12 people out on TDI, 33 out for military leave, 82 out for workers' comp, and this is across the board. So because of the family leave, what happens is we schedule enough staff to come in. 80% staffing rate is actually pretty good when you compare it across the nation. The problem we have, though, is that there's clear abuses in sick leave and FMLA, clear abuses. However, with approved FMLA, there's nothing we can do when the person says, oh, you can't hold me back because I have to go take care of a loved one, or oops, I can't come in today because I'm going to be on FMLA. Knowing that after that 8-hour shift that they didn't come in or didn't take, then we're going to call them for overtime. And so it's this vicious cycle. So I have met with both the leaders of UPW and a team from HCEA and asked them point blank, how can we work together to get the guys to come to work? What can you do? What can we do to provide a better environment? To give you an example, we spent in 2021 overtime across public safety. In 2022, we spent about 29 million. 2022, we're on track this year to spend $37.6 million. We don't have that money. We're on track this year to spend. So even with the vacancy to maintain the facilities in order to cover the overtime costs that we have. And so we can't maintain the facilities adequately because the salaries have to be paid. So in my discussions with HCEA and UPW, I offered them to help us do joint recruitment efforts. Go with us to the schools. Join us on the TV and radio ads, job fairs. I'm waiting for them to get back to me on that. We have caught up with the recruitment classes. Let me explain. From 2018 to 2020, before I came on board, there was only 6 classes of 122 graduates of the BCRC, the Basic Correctional Officer Recruit class. From 2021 to 2023, and we have 12 graduates pending now, we put 171 ACOs on the floor, 7 classes. We got 12 going to graduate in June next month, and we have 2 more classes scheduled this year. I've already ordered TSD to prepare for 5 classes next year, even if they overlap, because we have to keep up with attrition. So we're doing what we can, but we clearly have abuses in the system we have to try to address.
And thank you for indulging me. You attached that District of Columbia federal class action request, because this is not Tommy's fault. It's a group situation where if we have people in our custody, they have to get medical, mental health care, proper food. And if it's short rations because of lack of staff, something has to be done. The very last thing I would like to see, and I can't speak for the commission, we don't want a class action. We don't want the federal courts running public safety, but the people have to step up here. I agree 100% with Tommy. We have to cure this, what I call horizontally, not vertically, spread out. Is that copy of that very recent federal class action request, does that attach somewhere, Kristen, or did I miss it?
Yep, it's attached. It's on the same meeting page that the report and whatnot is on, in the agenda and all that. It's right with all that.
Okay, and Tommy, you got a copy of that?
I can look at
It's tough sledding, Tommy. And I thought of, I did Pearl for 8 years. I read it and I had to swallow hard and read it again. They're talking about the same things that we saw, unfortunately, in Hilo at HCCC, and it bears reading and cogitation. And then, as Tommy says,
only for Halava to reclassify the individuals to medium custody and send them right back. Tommy, do you know anything about that?
Could you repeat? I'm sorry.
What it says in the report, and this is what the staff told us.
Okay. Okay. So the first recommendation is to actually create a maintenance plan that details and lists from other facilities, and during the tour also found showers, broken sinks, broken toilets, broken phones, mass amounts. It's a lot. And especially it's a lot for one maintenance supervisor, one maintenance team to take on. And so, previously, after the August 2022, a very similar recommendation, work with other wardens and request volunteer maintenance staff from other facilities to assist with HCCC, at least to get some of these immediate issues taken care of. I don't think that happened. I don't necessarily know that happened. I don't necessarily know why that didn't happen, but I think some focus really needs to be spent on HCCC with all of these broken issues. The other thing that I wanted to note too is in the showers, there were a few different things going on with the showers, but in Wainuiui, the shower head actually was completely broken off, and so people had taken old shampoo bottles almost to stick it on there to make sure that the water doesn't shoot out directly. So things like that, and also the buttons for the showers didn't work at all in Wainuiui. So individuals actually have to go through the wall on the back end of the shower, open up the plumbing, and turn on the shower that way. And so there was just constant issues. And again, that's not a reflection of the current administration, right? This has been going on for years and years, but it definitely needs to be fixed. And so that was a clear recommendation that we had noted. And also, in addition to that, the money received from the 2023 legislative session, there should really be a focus or a prioritized focus for HCCC with all the issues that they are facing. And then the second recommendation was to ensure that individuals have proper access to court. So again, there were many individuals who wanted to speak to the commission about not knowing who their attorneys were, not knowing when their next court date is. If they did have a court date, these individuals were claiming that the facility had neglected to take them, and so just a lot of different issues all surrounding access to courts. And so, one of our commissioners had recommended that the facility staff write the attorneys' names on a notice to appear, and also keep that notice on file. And so that when individuals forget who their attorneys are or need assistance in contacting their attorneys, at least there's somebody who knows. I know that this isn't directly in the department's field of their responsibilities, but at the same time, we know that jails are meant to hold people while they're facing trial. And so the goal should be to get them through their trial, get them out of the facility completely. And the commission will also be making a recommendation to the judiciary to actually have the notice to appear include the defense attorney's name, because obviously that would help as well. In addition to that, it was recommended to have a list that includes, let me see.
You can defer payments of a whole implementation for 6 months. 33,000 companies.
Can we mute ourselves, people, please? Thank you.
Sorry, everyone. I just want to make sure I say this correctly, but a list to include individuals who have potentially been forgotten. And so to include individuals with their charges, their bail amount, the attorney name, the next court appearance or release dates, just to make sure that if individuals kind of have been forgotten within the large system, that we can make sure that we're trying to get people out and through their court processes. So I think that is everything. I know I flew through this very, very quickly. Again, I hope you all get to read the report. It's online.
And remind everybody, it's not just this report, but there have been multiple reports on HCCC starting last September. Almost every month you update us on HCCC.
Yes. And I need to, that's a good reminder too. I need to do like a full 6-month follow-up so I can also give updates as to all the things that have happened since that initial report, because again, I have been impressed with the department's response to that initial report. And, when that initial report came out, Tommy Johnson immediately flew out to Hilo, toured the facility himself. So I am really, really appreciative with the actions that have occurred since then. And I want to make sure that's reflected in the 6-month follow-up. But in the meantime, obviously, there's still some concerns that should be addressed.
So, Mark, may I say something?
Mark, go ahead, Ron.
Okay, so I saw a chat message talking about the probation officer monitoring case management, but the ones that we're concerned about is this pretrial detainees. They're not even convicted. There is no one monitoring their court case, basically having them brought to court. The court would produce a calendar, generally a day or so before the court appearances. But sometimes, everybody, departments, we all make mistakes. We're all human. But this is a good check where the ACO, when receiving the notice to appear, could merely just write in pencil or in ink, basically, who the lawyers are. It is, you would think it's such a simple task to remember the lawyer's name, but when they're under that situation, basically, people forget. And so the next question, so we're talking about pretrial detainees, which I might note in the report talks about 58% of the detainees are pretrial. Now, jail was supposed to be made for people who have been convicted and been punished. Now, here we have over half of the jail population consisting of pretrial detainees, which means if these pretrial detainees are convicted and logically extending the detention rates into conviction, you would think you'd have more than 50% conviction. Because pre-trial, they're in there, but yet, why are we getting more non-convicted defendants in jail than those who are convicted? So I say, again, it was raised in the report, there has to be something done to the system of pre-trial detention. I might add, looking at the statute, 804, the bail statute, we're talking about bail supposed to assure the defendant's appearance in court, basically not to punish the defendant. In fact, bail constitutionally should be set in a reasonable amount, taking all factors in consideration, which means that the defendant must be able to post a bail considering the defendant's financial resources. And the purpose is bail so that the defendant would not want to lose the bail money, so the defendant would show up in court, not to protect the public. If the prosecutor, law enforcement, or anyone, judge wants to protect the public, that person should be locked up without bail, because here, no matter how much bail is sought, that person theoretically can post a bail and be released in the public. And if that person is a danger to the community, you think about it, that bail amount is not going to protect the public. What protects the public is no bail. And the statute provides is showing that the state must make to have the court say no bail, protection of public, and conditions be imposed. So, all that amounts to overcrowding. And basically, I say that unless the system is changed, no matter how big the jail is being built, no matter what's happening with the sentencing, we're always going to have more than 50% pretrial detainees, which it just boggles the mind to have people who are not yet convicted. So that's the ACO's rate of able to write the lawyer's name on the note here.
It's getting into the weeds for me to be.
Back in the day, Judge, I've been in your court many times as the handling of inmates in incarceration. Yeah, we used to be in tune because we was with the inmates. We used to report back to the facility with all those information because we were the ones taking them in the front rooms. Now that job got taken away from us, we're now the sheriff, so we're disconnected. So all we get is whatever judgment is brought in with the inmate to us. So we're lost as far as all that values that we used to have before. Our sergeant used to make us take what the charge, what was said in court, when the next court date, who's the attorney. And as you know, Judge, many of these inmates don't have personal attorneys. They have public defenders. The public defender in district court is not necessarily there for day. They tell them that they get assigned. I've been there a couple of times where they say, somebody else, you're assigned to somebody else, but we're where we're not getting all that information. It's not on any other documents that coming back. I'll try to see and talk to Judge King. We do have, we send out with each inmate the status release form. Maybe we can have the court clerk write in the attorney's name on those status release forms so it comes back to us. And we have that documentation.
Yeah, that's one of the recommendations in our report that we request the Chief Justice. Having said that, that's another entity, but the sheriff comes under public safety. So why can't you folks work with the sheriffs?
We will work with them until 2024 when they're going to be their own department. So we have a short time, but
okay, thank you.
We'll work with them. If I can chime in on a couple of things. The judge was right when he talked about the pretrial population. The problem we have partly is we do a report to the court, and the court, by and large, won't approve 90% of the people for supervised release. So that's part of the issue. The other issue I wanted to talk about with that is the proper access to the courts. We can take a look at that phone issue that Christian mentioned. But the bottom line is this: Kramer brought up a good point. If they have a public defender assigned, a lot of times in the courtroom, that public defender is not representing them, but they're just filling in. They're sent they're assigned to that court for that day. That's not their case. And to some degree, the public defenders are really overwhelmed with the amount of cases they have. But I think where we can do better is Kramer and his staff will work with the sheriff, see if we can get some information on who the attorney is from that, we can try to get contact information so that the MA can have access, or the pretrial detainee can have access to the attorney. So we can certainly work on that issue. Back to recommendation number 1, we released over $200,000 to HCCC for parts, repair parts that Kramer and his superintendent needed to purchase. So now that those parts are on order, once the parts start coming in, then we'll put together what I call a maintenance strike package, and we'll send over the plumbers and electricians, and we'll have his superintendent will determine the work that needs to be done for that day. The plan is to send in a whole team there for an entire week. So they're there for 5 days. But during that time, the superintendent will plan out the work that has to be done. The maintenance folks will bring their own tools with them. And then Kramer and his superintendent will have all the parts and things they need to just go through. So we'll have plumbers, electricians, and maintenance guys all working at the same time in different parts of the facility, trying to bring everything back up to speed. So all that's already in the works now. We needed to find out what parts were needed, what was on back order, what we can get in. As those things start coming in, and Kramer and his superintendent will work to put together the package, and then you'll see the guys going into the facilities. So we just got to get the volunteers to come to willing to go over to get paid the per diem. We'll pay for their way over there the whole bit, and we'll make sure we bring the facility up to speed.
Oh, that's great news. And do you know like an approximate timeline for that, Tommy?
Well, we just released the last bit of funding to Kramer, so it's really going to hinge on when they can get all the parts and stuff in, because they need everything from light bulbs to plumbing supplies to maintenance things. We also authorized and purchased some equipment they need to get some of the repairs done. So
they don't have them in a state. Yeah, they're detention grade. They're what they would call long lead items. So might be like up to 12 weeks by the time the thing come in. So it all depends how fast we can get them in, but comes in apart.
So one of the things I did mention to the superintendent, so everyone knows, is that you don't wait until you run out of parts to order more. Down to 50%, you put in the order to get more stuff. Same the pads, stuff we talked about, Christian, shirts, sheets, the whole bit. It should be just like that. Okay. That's all I have, guys.
I will pass it back to you, Mark. That is the report. And thank you, Tommy and Warden, for those.
One more thing, Kristen. I heard from, I think, certainly 1 or 2 inmates, and I read in the report, you all heard lack of food. I don't know how we measure that. I didn't get it on Kauai. The kitchen is going to get a major upgrade. Is there adequate food made of the inmates, or is that a real deal? What's your take on that, Kristen? We did hear multiple reports of lack of food.
Yeah, we did. I don't have any. I was curious to kind of look at the grievances to see how many grievances are coming in about that particular issue. But Tommy or Warden might be able to shed more light on that.
We don't have a shortage of food at the facilities for sure, and we do go by the diet. We have a dietitian. We do a 6-week meal cycle, 6 to 8 week meal cycle. We have 6 different types of diets that we provide for. And so I haven't gotten any complaints. In custody, I don't think they're missing meals. But if they do have a valid concern, they should bring it up. Because then if the medical doctor said we need to provide them a higher caloric intake, then we will certainly do that.
Thank you.
I believe, the way we feed these inmates, the time span, I think a lot of these inmates in here, they don't have money. Families don't put money for them to get commissary. So it's a long, but most of them get fed at 5 in the afternoon for dinner. They don't get fed till like 5:30 the next morning. So that's a long span without a meal, without some kind of snack. And a lot of them don't have the money to purchase snacks on the commissary. So if you look at our commissary side, very, very small. With the amount of inmates we have and the volume of products being bought by them, very minimal.
A lot of it has to do with the population pre-trial as well.
I don't understand that, Tommy, that it has to do with pretrial population.
Because our pretrial population is more, what do you say, the term to purchase the commissary goods, and the ones that do, sometimes the family members, since we're not running a daycare, we can't provide snacks at night. We just simply don't have the kind of money in the budget, but we do provide extra caloric intake for those inmates where the medical doctor, dietitian says they need it for their medical condition. They do then get a smaller portion of something in the evening, but that's based on a special diet.
Okay, I will.
Raises, can they do a job in-house, so to speak, to get more commissary? I don't know the answer to that.
PRP, we're waiting for CDC to provide us updated guidelines. We really don't have a lot of work lines going as we normally would. So once we can update our PRP and we can loosen some of the restrictions, we can get some of the work lines going. But the in-facility work lines are really minimal with respect to wages. The real wages come where they get on the HCI work line.
Thank you.
Inmates at Wainui, Tommy, complain that they do not think that commissary is available often enough to them, that they don't get to order very often from commissary. So what they do order, they run out of those snacks. They may have money in their account, but what they said is they don't have access to ordering from the commissary.
Okay, I'll double check with HCI on how many times they can order a month.
Yeah.
On the commissary, because we fill everything out of a lava and then it's shipped over. So I'll double check with that and see. So Kramer, I'll get with Jonah and I'll have him call you. Thanks for bringing it up.
Thank you.
Any other comments, commissioners, on Kristen's report? I'm just going to add a few something in on the maintenance issues, and I'm glad to hear that we're going to be resolving some of the issues at H Future with its maintenance. I want to uplift or share what I feel in my experiences as the chief of security and the warden of the Women's Community Correctional Center in the 8 years that I was there, and even till now in the last 8 years with the youth facility, is I was never really trained on operations management of an institution. Yeah, how do we manage the maintenance issues? Yeah, you're given an organizational chart. You're giving people who have position descriptions on what they're supposed to do, but really from a leadership position, no specific training on how to manage maintenance or operational issues within an institution. And because I'm basically on the same track as Kramer, because we came up off the line, as ACOs, we know, because we work the line, how to manage the residential or housing unit maintenance issues. So we have that knowledge of firsthand, but we don't have the more leadership type knowledge in terms of, how do we base the information in regards to these are the most common problems. These are the most common parts. How to end of the fiscal year, we can make sound decisions regarding budgetary decision making in order to maintain. Yeah. I think there's a lot of national organizations out there that provide operational training. I know once I realized I didn't have it, it was really looking for those things that I could send my staff to so that they could learn OSHA safety procedures, emergency generators, emergency fire systems, all those type of things, so that there were people under me that were experts at it. But I had the responsibility of training my staff. But when you talk about wardens and deputy wardens and chief of staffs, what kind of training can we provide for them so that they're up on a level of understanding what they need to do as leaders to manage their programs and not so much rely on the staff below them. A lot of money into fixing things, but we should invest in the leadership and an operational management program for the entire department, so every facility is on the same page. I know there's database systems out there that help facilities, your larger facilities across the nation, manage their operations. Yeah, at a touch of a finger, you can know what all your issues are. So just want to uplift that as a possible solution, that as we move forward and we begin to fix things, we want to be able to manage it at a great level, in which involves leadership at both the facility level and the institutional level. Yeah. So let's not forget about our leaders who are out there and helping them to manage the maintenance issues that they come across.
It's also a matter of keeping your line staff informed as to what is coming, because Tommy just informed us about the $200,000, and they're going to be, and Kramer is aware of many of these things that need to be fixed. When we were in the Komohana building, we've put in work order requests and it's to no avail. So Kramer, if you can share with the staff that things are going on order now, and they're going to get started as soon as possible. I think it would help also.
That what we're trying to explain them was that
If there's no more further conversation on the report, thank you, Christian, for that. Thank you, Tommy, for your presence. I'll open it back up to the public for any testimony on the agenda and the discussions that were spoken at this time.
Oh, Mark, I did want to add one very quick thing before public comment. So Martha had asked about the date for the Second Chance Summit being hosted by Going Home Hawaii. And I put it in the chat too, but that is August 23rd. And it's in Kona. Registration will open in July. So commissioners, I'll make sure to send that registration link to all of you so that if you're able to participate, you can. But this will be a pretty big event. And basically the goal is, people who are experiencing homelessness or serious mental health issues or chronic poverty, all these different issues that we know ultimately result in them being incarcerated. The goal is to find other solutions to prevent incarceration altogether. So more information about that to come, but I wanted to make sure that I shared that.
Thank you.
Okay. Any comments from the public on the testimony on the agenda items before we close this meeting?
You have Keldon Walton.
Yeah, I'd like to hear from Keldon. Honestly, what's going on?
Hey, Judge Tom.
Hey, how
are you?
Because, you and I go back a little ways, but the prosecutor is not only just an advocate, but a minister of justice and a quasi-judicial officer. So it's good to see you today. And we wish you well.
Thank you. I just want to thank the commission for all your hard work, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to, make a few comments. I guess just going over some of the things that were covered earlier. Mr. Johnson talked about staffing shortages. For those of you that aren't familiar with me, I'm pretty familiar with public safety a little bit because my dad was at ACO for over 30 something years at HCCC. The warden and I have known each other for a very, very, very long time. I remember my dad coming home and talking about you, Mr. Sakai, when you used to come down to Hilo and visit the facility. So I'm pretty familiar with HCCC. And the staffing shortages is nothing new. I remember growing up and my dad being held over because they didn't have anyone to cover, and that's nothing new. But I think Mr. Johnson's talking about recruitment efforts. I think however we can all support him in trying to bring new people in. I think that's great. I think it's good if they get out there into the doing career fairs, getting into the schools, talking to the community. I know HCCC used to be really active in doing career days, even on Hawaii Island. I remember them going into the different high schools, and the warden probably I think the warden actually came to my high school when I was in high school. They came down and they did it was cool. They would come down with one of the transport vehicles, and they'd have guys all geared up and teach you a little bit. They continue to do the different career fairs around our island. I've participated in a few with Youth Challenge and other events, and HCCC staff is there. So I know they're trying. So whatever public safety can do to assist them, I think will be great. I know you guys mentioned a little bit about court access and that being a concern about defense attorneys not showing up to visit inmates at the facility. I'm not sure if that's something that maybe the commission can assist with, but perhaps if the commission could assist HCCC, I know they've got their own staffing shortages, but maybe if the commission can assist by getting them additional positions or someone to come in and take down those names, perhaps maybe we should refer those names to ODC if it's something that needs to be actionable by the Office of Disciplinary Counsel. I'd also just like to share, and I think the warden can correct me if I'm wrong, but we have had over the last year, maybe even 2 years, there's been a number of inmates who have refused to come to court as well. That's not unusual. And, we've had to take, it makes things difficult because at that point, are they going to go in doing a cell extraction? At what level? We've had other people who come to court, but then they refuse to come out of the cell block at the courthouse. That's another issue that comes up, and that's kind of regular. And the sheriffs are a little bit more reluctant to do a cell extraction. But there's been situations where HCCC staff have had to come down to the courthouse, I know in Hilo, and do a cell extraction to bring someone into the courtroom. Haven't had that recently, but I know that was done in the past. So I just wanted to share about that. One of the things that our office did to assist, I'm big on, we can talk about problems and whatnot, but we should talk about solutions. So I remember when we first heard about all the issues that we're having with access to courtrooms, I reached out to the warden, and our office went down. We bought iPads and we gave it to HCCC. As far as I know, I think they're still using 2 of those, and those are used to provide Zoom access for inmates. So maybe we got to expand that. I know in the past, in working with the warden, he had shared some of the facility issues with connectivity, and a lot of that has to do with IT. They need the funding. They need the help. So there was also a situation where they were going to implement a new Polycom system. And I think if I heard correctly, a lot of the system was damaged by inmates who were within the facility, and they damaged everything because they heard about the fact that the facility was making these arrangements. So that was an issue. I see my good friend Judge Ibarro there. He shared a little bit about pretrial detainment. And I understand where Judge Ibarro is coming from. Those were a lot of the concerns that we've had in the past about trying to streamline processes. And we did make a lot of adjustments. I mean, if you guys look at the numbers, back in 2014, I think since 2014 to 2020, if you look at the statistics, we've had about a decrease statewide of about 1,000 inmates. There's about 1,000 less inmates in custody in 2023 than they had in 2014. And that's largely in part of all the pretrial changes that have been made across the state. And that's no different on Hawaii Island. There's about almost 100 less inmates in custody now at HCCC than there were in the past back in 2014. But one of the large contributing factors that if you take a look at it, back in 2014, there was a lot of people in custody for very lower level offenses, traffic crimes, contempt of courts. You had all the intermittent inmates coming in and out of jail. Intermittent jail sanctions are a day of the past. They don't do that anymore. Hope probation is not utilized anymore. So a lot of those types of numbers that had an influx on the number of people in custody, those practices are not being done. Instead, what you have is you have a large number of inmates who are in custody. And unfortunately, Judge, I got to disagree with you. There's a bunch of these people who are in custody. They don't have one felony case. What it is, the reality is a lot of them have 2, 3, 4, 5 pending felony matters. They've previously been granted supervised release or release on their overcognizance over prosecutors' objections many times. It's something that we're going to try to work on and to actually gather data I think Mr. Johnson talked a little earlier about some of the concerns about intake service center with recommendations for supervised release or release on overcognizance. I'll let you guys know. The fact of the matter is most people get released. It's a tough reality, but most people get released. It's not unusual for the same person to end up in custody at a detention hearing in whether it be Hilo or Kona, being arrested for the same charge 2 or 3 times if it's a lower level offense. Because when they get charged, they get arrested, they'll get charged, they'll show up in court, and they'll be granted release. That's actually something that's happened quite often. But that being said, I mentioned earlier, I cannot just offer negative things about positive or possible solutions. So one of the things I think we should try to implement is utilizing alternatives to incarceration, such as electronic monitoring. It's not being utilized as often as we'd like to see, whether it be at the pretrial side or by the intake service center or on the post-conviction side for probation. As far as I know, adult probation department on Hawaii Island still only has 5 ankle monitors that are available for their utilization for probationers. And that's, I think, for the APD section. There may be another 5 for drug court, but that's island-wide. 10 devices. We've got like 1,000 people on felony probation, something like that, So that's it's something that needs to be looked at. The other thing is with electronic monitoring, the advent of that, there's a lot of tech since in the last couple of years. There's options. The traditional ankle monitors have features that we never thought would be possible. They can detect alcohol, drug use, things like that, send notifications to supervision authorities. That's a lot cheaper than having somebody in custody. If they tamper with the device, it'll send a notification. The other thing that we could look at is the possibility of utilizing mobile electronic devices for their ability to track and as an electronic monitoring device. This is nothing new. The federal system uses it as a means to supervise people who are on court supervision. It's actually very cheap, and most people nowadays got a mobile electronic device. Maybe what we can do is, I think on the federal side, they actually provide people on federal supervision with a electronic device. It's a tool that you could use to help yourself help them reintegrate back into society, because we have to provide them with the tools to succeed. If not, they're going to come back. There's going to be recidivism. Last but not least, I know we talked about the facility concerns, and I think everybody knows that. I mean, there's a lot of things that need to be addressed, and it's going to cost money. It's going to create time. But the bottom line is, I know a lot of people don't want to face that tough reality, but Hawaii Island needs new correctional facilities in both East and West Hawaii. Every day we do daily transports from Kona. It places the public in jeopardy. It also creates a lot of strains on police, prosecutors, sheriff's department, the corrections division, and it's not an effective means of housing these individuals when you have all these people transporting back and forth. There's missed court dates. There's things of that nature. I'm sure Judge Ibarra remembers sitting on the bench and not having the right inmate transported all the way to his courtroom, and turns out they sent a father instead of a son with the same last name. I mean, that happens. That's the kind of stuff that happens. So really, I think if we can all work together to try to advocate for, I understand the importance of programming. I agree with you guys. We need programming. We need more funding for substance abuse, mental health, homelessness, all of those things on our island, because Hawaii Island is an afterthought. We don't get the funding that Oahu gets. And if we could try to work together to prioritize Hawaii Island, getting substance abuse, mental health, homeless programs on island, funding for those resources. But at the same time, we need new correctional facilities, and advocating for that, and increased funding and staffing for our existing HCCC staff. I think we'll be well on our ways to making the community a safer place. But I won't take any more of your time. I just thank you guys for the opportunity to address the group. Mahalo for all your help.
Sheldon, where are you employed at?
He's the prosecutor.
I'm the Hawaii County prosecuting attorney.
Okay. Thank you.
Sheldon, give my regards to your dad. He was he made lieutenant, as I recall.
Yeah, he retired during the pandemic.
Yeah. He's a good man.
Thank you. I'll let him know you said hello.
Thank you.
That was a
And
lot.
I just emailed you for your email address. Thank you so much for coming and for all of your suggestions. I will absolutely be in touch, and I look forward to chatting with you more and trying to find solutions. I really, really appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Follow, Kristen.
Yeah. Thank you, Kelvin. You just filled a lot of unknowns for us that's occurring in Hilo and the Big Island, and there's no doubt we're going to have some more conversations with you and how we can work together as the Commission on the Judiciary as well as with public safety. So thank you for all of that information. Was there anybody else in the room that would like to have any more comments? Okay. Commissioners, any final word before we close? Okay, Tommy, as always, thank you for being here and bringing us the information.
Can you hear me?
Go ahead, Ron.
Okay, Kelvin, first of all, thank you for appearing. And, it's refreshing to hear such an open view from a new prosecutor who's going to be working with the criminal justice, within the criminal justice system. But my concern is basically, I hear you, if the person needs to be locked up for public safety, whether the person is a prior offender, has all these other charges pending, the statute provides it. Don't use high bail as a subterfuge for no bail. Call a spade a spade. Just tell the courts, this person is a threat to the community. Because as you know, the person may post a bail and be out there again. And what is your office going to do? Come in and move to increase the bail. So that's all I'm saying, is basically comply with the statute. But yes, I appreciate your comments, and it's refreshing to see you, and maybe I get to see you on the golf course again.
Ori Mahoy, I want to thank you for being here and sharing your thoughts as well. Appreciate you and your staff and everything that you guys are doing under the conditions that you have. We look forward to, as a commission, in support of you, along with public safety and getting you where you need to be to do what you guys need to be doing for the county of Hawaii. So thank you for being here.
Mark, I move we accept the report as a commissioner's report.
I second the motion.
It has been moved and seconded that the report submitted by the Oversight Coordinator be accepted. It's formal. Any further discussion?
I just want to say the report that's submitted by the Oversight Coordinator is based on multiple reports submitted to her by the commissioners.
Yeah.
So it's her input and our input also in that report.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say same. Okay. Report accepted. Motion passed. Thank you, Kristen, for working on that. Before we leave, I'd just like to make an announcement. And Kristen, correct me if I'm wrong. May 18th, we will be touring the Hawaii Community Correctional Center and having our public meeting from, where it's going to be held?
Maui College, I think UH Maui.
Okay, UH Maui. Now, you can look at our website for those of you who are interested, and they'll be give us more information on our visit to MCCC. So, without further ado, thank you everybody for being here. Appreciate you all. Have a great afternoon. Aloha.
Aloha.